I want to talk about, I want to talk about the kind of how many independent films you guys are acquiring, because I know that all the, distributors, whether it's independent distributors or studios, at the end of the day, they do as many digital deals as they feel like doing or as they can do. Filmmakers almost always have to go through aggregators or a distributor to get onto an iTunes or to, Amazon's one of the few that, you can go direct with via, Unbox. But I'd like to hear from you guys about which of the outlets that you're going to is giving you the most revenue, and also what kind of films that you're acquiring at festivals, or what kind of independent, just strictly independent now, content you're acquiring for digital distribution, how it's paying off.
Sure, I'll go first. I don't think this should be surprising to anyone. The biggest revenue generator for us, for my business, is iTunes. I mean, they are growing at a remarkable rate. They are selling, and again, a lot of studio product, obviously, but surprisingly, things that we tell them to feature that we think will appeal to their audience, be it independent or deep in our catalog, also sell.
And that's when, no offense to you, Effie, but that is people actually paying for content. So that model is obviously working to an extent.
So the ad-supported model is clearly where a lot of us are focused, at least in our consumer-facing platforms. But the ownership model is absolutely one, and Alex touched upon this, is absolutely one, whether it's digital or packaged media, is here to stay.
But is that just studio product, or is that independent cinema too?
It's independent as well, absolutely.
Okay.
We sell Sony Pictures Classics product on
Sure,
iTunes.
of course.
We sell all the acquired product from our Worldwide Acquisitions Group. And it does surprisingly well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My experience is that, there's so many people who want to watch Spider-Man 3 that some people pay, and it's meaningful enough because the audience and the marketing that went into making this film known is so big that there is significant revenue there. The challenge is with independent films, and I'm not talking about 2046 as what Sony Classics may be putting it on iTunes, which is a Wong Kar-wai film that some people will still pay, but it's the audience here. Your film might be official selection here, and you might even win an award, and you put it up on iTunes, and it will get lost. And you may not make as much money as you think you were going to make. What I think is really important is exposure. This is to me is the key. When it starts with a creator, a filmmaker, as a beautiful film. It doesn't start with you putting it up and saying, "Guess what? Now you can pay for my film." Who cares, right? You could be Kubrick and no one would know, because no one is going to pay for that film. They've never heard about it. They don't know about it. None of their friends told them that they should watch it. It's a big investment. It's very different from music. Music is 2 minutes. You can just watch, listen to something, you can do something else, and it's done. You sit down and you watch an hour and a half film. It's a big investment, and very few people watch more than 1 or 2 films a month, right? So to me, it starts with exposure. You have to make yourself known using a lot of different things, but mainly leveraging social media. And then you pull people to your content, and then you put the toll booth there, right? You do things. And then your next film, of course, you're going to get financing much more easily. You're going to make a much bigger film. It will have a marketing budget and all that. But it starts with exposure. Right.
And it's interesting that IFC just announced this festival, South by Southwest thing, where Joe Swanberg and some other filmmakers are going to be going to the festival for the first time and going up on VOD at the same time during the festival. And the question is whether this would cannibalize their ability to go to other festivals. And they're all saying they'd like to go to other festivals. But this whole idea of using film festivals to distribute movies is also building too.
Sure.
So, we definitely go to places like this, and for television, NatB, and to talk to people who are making product, we kind of talked about sort of the head content a lot, and sort of the down the tail. Google makes its living down the tail. So it's something that we're certainly interested in, and we talked about one thing that we give, which is revenue share, but the other thing that we give is, to your point. We give a lot of promotion to partners. So if you were just to upload your film onto YouTube, you really couldn't do that because probably it would exceed the limitation, but you also wouldn't get any promotion, right? So here it's, come to us. we'll sign you to a deal. The audience kind of, we'll point them in a direction saying, here's some interesting stuff, and we do it on every single watch page, and we serve hundreds of millions of those a day. And then at that point, it gives you a head start. In addition, it can't be by itself. It has to be in addition to your own efforts as marketing out and sending out the email saying, hey, check out this, and then somebody likes it, and they send it to 10 people, and that's the way it goes. So, and that's the way we look at it. So, being in a place where we have unlimited server capacity, unlimited shelf space, yes, we'd love to house your films and help you find an audience and work with you to do that.
Jordan, I remember meeting at LAFF a woman who was programming shorts for YouTube. That was going to be part
Sarah.
of a. Sorry?
Sarah.
Sarah, that's right. And that was part of a whole distribution deal. I mean, there's going to be revenue back to the filmmakers. I know that the distribution deal terms were always kept private. Are you able to speak to in any way the nature of the deal, the kind of revenue generated?
I think the basic framework of that kind of thing is very basic, which is found a sponsor put money in the area, we put all the content for this area under their umbrella, and then it was paid out on a performance basis.
Do you guys disclose the splits or no?
They're standard, but if anybody wants to do a deal, I'll be more than
Then
happy
he'll
to
talk to
tell
you
them.
after the show.
So, but the idea is that it was a pool of money in a certain shorts area, and that the ones who were the most popular in that area got paid the most. It's really that simple. It's divided up. That pie is divided up that way.
I know we touched on iTunes, but does anyone want to speak to any revenue generated from the Amazon Unbox or CreateSpace or any of that stuff, or any of the other services that we can touch on, just to give people a sense of which platforms? I mean, I actually collate a list of all the platforms that I can come up with for filmmakers, for independent filmmakers, to try to help them out. But can we speak to what's working?
Go ahead. Again, in the ownership model, there's iTunes and then everybody else, candidly. Unbox
Bummer for everybody else.
Unbox is making some strides. I mean, you mentioned some of the announcements they had at CES. Cinema Now and Blockbuster, we'll see where that goes. But obviously, I think they're making some strides as well. But until you have that ecosystem that iTunes has, unfortunately, I think they'll continue to be dominant. The game consoles are another platform that are making tremendous strides. Xbox and PlayStation 3 have a very targeted audience, and that audience is huge media consumption.
And Netflix told me the other day that they're going to do a deal with Xbox as well.
Yes.
They just did their
They
Vizio
have
and
a deal.
LG.
They actually have a deal with Xbox, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Netflix's model is a little bit different for all of us as content providers, but they're taking movies that they've aggregated for their subscription base and putting it on all of these platforms. But they've done a very good job as well.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, I was just going to agree with Sean in the sense that iTunes is, we're very similar. We have a huge media film library of 13,000, in our case, 13,000 motion pictures. And so obviously the ownership society that Sean mentioned, and iTunes is far and above, and I would say Unbox, I guess they're calling it VOD now or something, or is the distant number two, but growing rapidly, and the numbers are too small to really show any trends right now, but it's looking very, very promising. And of course the game platforms. So across the board, very, very similar. I forget what else is.
Before we move into marketing and the social networking stuff, why do you think that iTunes is number one? I mean, why is that?
Again, they have a great user experience. They have a device that is a cultural phenomenon that's easily connected and easily you can easily view your content on.
As opposed to having to download software or going,
Yeah, I mean,
no one wants to do that.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, any other way, the Amazon way, which isn't Amazon specific, it's just the technology that isn't iTunes is the only other one really available. Is you download it to your computer. You have very limited usage rights around that. There are many devices that work with that, but none of which have sold more than thousands of units. And it's a much clunkier experience.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot to do with installed base. I mean, they've built such an excellent global music market, that once you had the software and a very huge music media library, for them to introduce the multimedia, whether whether television, whether whole length features, it was an absolute natural. And when the devices came around that were video enabled, then they leveraged that, I guess, just like Microsoft did back in the 80s and 90s.
I mean, I think there is hope on the horizon, if you will, for a service or a connection of services that have devices that interoperate in between them. Our company spent a tremendous amount of work, not me specifically, but on trying to advance that as a platform to allow users a very interesting user experience, really beyond what iTunes offers. But that's off into the future, unfortunately, at the moment.
My final question before we go into the social networking stuff is, do you think the broadcast VOD will slip away in service, in such that the internet options will take over? Ann says no.
I don't think so. Broadcasting still reaches incredible scale, and that's very attractive to an advertising base that can't get that really anywhere else. So there will be room for it. I think that certainly that model is under pressure. I mean, and NBC basically taking out the 10 o'clock hour was the beginning. Okay, so. But hopefully what that will do, though, is focus the broadcast networks in terms of their development and creating great programs as opposed to just kind of filling the slots,
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear the question, so let me just add to that. I mean, last night American Idol had whatever audience it had. I mean, there's no place where you can, as an advertiser, find that audience and that grand scale and that mass in any of the platforms we've discussed today. So it's not.
Well, American Idol, though, is not quite the same thing as just regular IFC VOD, but.
That's what.
Yeah,
I think
was
your question was broadcast. Or
Yeah,
VOD.
right.
No, I was saying the kind of VOD that's available through your
sorry.
cable TV. That's as distinguished from any
I heard
internet
Jordan
stuff.
talking about broadcast.
Well, I
wanted
heard
to reiterate
broadcast,
the point.
so I automatically.
No, I didn't mean. No, sorry. So let me clarify. I'm really looking to analyze it to distinguish what IFC and Magnolia offer that's cable VOD compared to Netflix's service or Unbox or YouTube's. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, your question is it gonna ever happen, or is it gonna happen now?
It's going to grow for a while, and then we'll see where it goes. I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah, it just happened a few weeks ago where it got integrated with all these set-top boxes, and there are a lot more choices with those, I guess you might want to call them IPTV models, if you will, versus the broadcast VOD, on-demand models. But I don't think there are any good reports or data out on that.
I mean, I asked because there was all these companies investing in set-top boxes. I mean, and Akimbo's gone basically, and I don't know how Voodoo's doing, but
I think they're all transitionary.
right.
Yeah.
And right now, neither the broadband nor the encoding algorithms were good enough for you to get that kind of resolution in image and HD on your TV, and you needed the set-top box and a cable operator to bring that to you. And if you have already 40 million houses installed watching TV, simply to start offering movies, of course, suddenly it's the big news. But the network is where the film is going to be in the future. I mean, the change in technology and behavior is going to be slow. Like, I don't think in the next few years we are going to see internet becoming more prominent and broadcast VOD in any way. But at some point, it will hit like there is no tomorrow. Like, this is how internet grew. This is how viruses grew. It's going to be slow, and at some point, it's going to hit a certain milestone and it's going to go up.
Yeah, I mean, the internet, obviously, of course I'm going to say it's powerful, but I think, we talked about iTunes, and yes, it's a great model, and it's, but to me, it's sort of limited to the device, and I think that
it's
ultimately
friction.
it's going to go into this concept of the cloud, where you're going to log into whether your Google account
Exactly.
or whatever service is going to, hopefully it's YouTube, and then you just sort of get to that point where it's all there for you, whether you've bought it or your favorites or they're recommended to you, and it's just like no matter where you are, whether you're on a device Because there are places for a device. Look, I mean, I've been stuck on in many airports and have whipped out the old iPhone because I wanted to watch YouTube. So, or a PC, or the APIs that we put into Sony Bravias or what have you. And I think that's but this concept that it is waiting for you in the cloud, that is where I believe it's all going.
Yeah, exactly.
It's waiting for you, and it's synchronized in the cloud. So whether you say, "Oh, I'm going to watch 37 minutes of this long-format program. Ooh, got to stop, got to go run to an appointment. Oh, I have 3 minutes. I'm going to manage my micro boredom and watch it on this device, which is going to be accessible via the cloud." Okay, and then it remembers when you get home. Oh, you watched 3 minutes of it over here. Continue watching. Onwards and forwards. And oh, by the way, we recommend a little short that came bundled with that.
Hopefully, don't all get brain damage in the process.
are.
But even
Okay, so now we're moving to the final segment of the panel discussion. Then we open up for questions. I guess I have totally no track of time. We're talking about social networking and all this Facebook, MySpace, blah blah blah. I always wonder. I mean, I'm a big Facebook person. I see how it works. I also know that these kind of social networking can continually get supplanted, although Facebook seems to be the best by far so far. At the same time, there's also a glut, right? At some point, the same reason why ad tag content is dangerous, because people at some point get sick and tired of it. Pop-up ads no longer work. Banner ads no longer, not no longer work, but there's these things decrease in potency because of the glut and the massive exploitation. So how do you deal with that in the future? I mean, if all this, that's why algorithms are so important, right? And sort of recommendation technology and that push technology stuff. How do you massive content, and how does it work? How does it get filtered through and recommended to peers and in a way that's going to keep working? Or is it?
Crickets.
Crickets?
No. Look, I think it's you got to keep investing in the technology. You got to keep investing in your platform and keep people. Well, first of all, you got to keep people on your platform, right? So forget about the advertising for a second. That's the challenge. Is that there's some upstart that's going to come up and create more segmentation of the audience. So you have to keep innovating in that experience, which is one of the reasons why we decided to do HD, because we didn't want someone else to go because there was going to be another HD service. Yes, the bandwidth is kind of screwy, but that's going to fix over time. But I think that's the idea is to keep the audiences engaged, and so again, engagement. Talked about it a few minutes ago. 15 hours of content uploaded. That's like your best engagement metric ever, right? Because people are actually actively uploading their content onto your service and then watching whatever they just uploaded or other people's and their friends, and this is the important thing. This is why we believe that UGC and professional content actually have to live together, because you have to keep people engaged in mass numbers, and there comes the money part, right? There's the algorithm of, yes, I want to target, but there's also the scale, to be able to go to the advertising community and say, hey, we have 100 million uniques. They'll listen, because you can't really get that anywhere else. And so that's the magic I think that's going to have to happen. But the big problem is, how do you find the stuff? And so back into investing in the algorithm.
And F.A., are you guys, you're, Criterion Collection, Solar Dreams, these are world-class, world cinema distributors. Are you also going to be just taking on new independent cinema?
We looked at what is working, what was not. What wasn't working for us is everybody can put up whatever movie that they want, and you go to a site and you cannot find anything to watch, and you are completely overwhelmed, right? And so day one, without any audience that I can data mine and use algorithms, we said we are going to choose some of the best films ever produced. I'd love to believe that you can put all the films in the long tail model, and the good stuff is going to sort of populate, and your content is going to be discovered, but it quite doesn't work that way. So we are going to be creating our library initially. We have currently our programming advisor. She's in the selection committee of Venice. She chooses the films for us. Right, and we target, we get only the films that we want to show. But eventually, we are going to broaden our reach as our audience gets bigger. As we need to show more variety to satisfy people from all around the world, from Istanbul to Prague to New York. It's a global platform. So yes, right now I need to create, because everything else out there is so much stuff that you simply get lost. The experience is terrible. So focusing on the selection of movies and a good user experience, I think we can start building a meaningful audience around cinema, and then expand that. And then it's mind-boggling at the same time when there is all this really high-definition Blu-rays and everything exists. People are watching this low bitrate, low-resolution videos from Hulu and YouTube, and when there's this high-fidelity, high-audio systems out there, and some of them very affordable, you are downloading this low-quality, low-bitrate MP3s. It's the consumer behavior. I mean,
They're
want
not all
access.
cineasts.
I mean, they are not necessarily. It's not about the technology. I mean, I'm really watching what people are doing. People currently are on Facebook, right? And how they discover content on Facebook, how they interact with one and each other, and how they consume that content. That is, to me, very exciting. Where is this gonna go? Well, we're gonna all make it up as it goes. But I am not, I'm not looking at the back. I'm looking at what the consumer is doing right now, and I'm trying to build a platform that actually satisfies their need.
One thing is with you said, are we all going to be brain dead, and quite possibly with all the multiplication of channels and formats and platforms and consumer electronics and media and there's so much to watch that the old adage, there's nothing on, and that's really the issue. And what you're talking about, Efe, is really the fact that people are inspired by human brilliance. Every once in a while, something rises up that's so incredibly wonderful, and it changes everything, makes it fresh. Then everything does make sense. It fits very well in a social media network. It fits very well in a packaged media and an on-demand and a this and that and all the devices and and you're not brain dead. You're alive. You're like connected to this greater world out there. So every once in a while, that is the human element that really makes this whole thing work, and that's where the independent filmmakers really drive that ultimately. But ultimately we were an evolving ecosystem that's very confusing. And some of us are IP owners or networks. Some of us are, even the social networks and all that is all very confusing because there's so much explosion of those. But that's all. That's ultimately we have to figure out how this whole thing evolves.